We are seeing the emergence of technology that can simulate a specific person's voice, including accent, inflection, and style of speaking. So the question is, what happens when your synthetic voice is indistinguishable from your real voice? My name is Jim Conner. Welcome to Game Changers Silicon Valley. This segment of tonight's show will discuss the implications of using artificial intelligence to create a human-sounding synthetic voice. My guests are Zohaib Amen from Resemble AI and Dr. Ronald Weissman, chairman of the software group at the Band of Angels. Zohaib, Ron, thank you for joining us tonight. Zohaib, let me ask you to give us a general overview of artificial intelligence. What does it mean? I've been a bit confused by it over the years and all the claims. So you're an expert, I think, or you're certainly got a lot more knowledge than I have. So maybe you can give us a general overview of what's AI all about?
Sure. Thanks for having me here, Jim. So artificial intelligence is any task that is human-like, and if it could be reproduced by a machine, that is considered artificial intelligence. So we've been doing this since the 50s, and recently we've gotten a lot better at it. So this is why we're here. But
this has some type of human interface, or it takes in a range of conditions that form some type of, if I can use the word, algorithm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is an algorithm necessary to have a qualifying artificial intelligence application?
Generally, yes. We're seeing a newer form of artificial intelligence, which is like machine learning and deep learning. New as in the last 20 years. And these are less algorithmic and they're more data heavy. So
yeah. This has confused me about machine learning. I've asked a lot of people about it. Maybe Ron, you can comment in a minute, but I'm always saying, how does a machine learn? Okay, and I'll let you comment on that.
Sure. So for typical machine learning, the idea is that it takes a bunch of data. There's various types of machine learning. So we're talking supervised, unsupervised. The idea between supervised is that the data is labeled. Unsupervised is the data is unlabeled, and the machine's trying to figure out how do I categorize or cluster this data and try to find patterns from it. Unsupervised is fairly easy to understand, so I'll explain that. The idea is you're given data with annotations or labels. So imagine you give 1,000 pictures of a cat and 1,000 pictures of a dog. And the machine basically tries to predict cat and a dog. And the idea is that when the machine makes a prediction, it'll go back and it'll say, oh, you were this off. And then it'll try to correct itself. So it's just a mathematical function at the end of the day. It's trying to minimize that function, and to the point where it predicts cat correctly from dog.
Okay. So Ron, welcome. Glad to have you here. Very happy to have you here, in fact. And you're a very active investor, Band of Angels, and chairman of the software group at that organization. You've been involved in artificial intelligence and AI from an investor point of view, and I now have learned you've also had some past experiences. What is your concept of, does your concept of AI match Zohaib's?
Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of answering a question relating to how does a machine learn, basically a machine comes up, develops a set of important factors, and then assigns weights to them. We would call it a model. And then it applies that model to observations it's never seen before. That's the primary way that...
and then it self-corrects, I assume, at some level.
It's always self-correcting.
And does a human tell it how to self-correct, or does it do
No, there's a set of feedback loops. That's one of the primary discoveries in the past 10 or 15 years as to how to make those feedback loops very efficient so that that model becomes self-correcting.
Very good. So now you've picked an interesting area, one of voice synthesis or voice simulation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why did you pick that area?
So really it stems from my experience looking at computer vision stuff. You probably noticed in the last half of 2018, or all of 2018, we're seeing a lot of images that are synthetically created, right? So we took that and we said, well, what if audio was synthetically created? For, I would say, last 20 years, we've done so much with computer vision and computer graphics, you know, where everything in a movie is just simulated, and it feels like audio's been left behind. And I finally realized that we could take some of these existing models from computer vision and computer graphics and apply them to the audio field, and really make audio bring it to the future, really.
Are you about to put all the voiceover artists out of business and some of the actors who are between movies?
Yeah, so I don't view us like that. The way I view us is we augment voice actors at the moment, right? So we're not here to immediately replace them, but imagine if you yourself, like on the show, Jim, you made a mistake, right? And it was just one word, right? And it just flew by. And if you were able to fix that mistake post-production without you having to do a retake, or if you wanted to rephrase a question. So initially, it's like we have end-to-end speech synthesis, but just augmenting the experience, I think, would just save so much time for you.
But aren't you playing with fire? Isn't this the vocal equivalent of deep fakes?
It is.
Where I can use my voice to turn into, let's say, Nancy Pelosi's voice and have her say that she's about to raise taxes 1,000%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. So that's a valid argument, and it's something that we take very seriously. So it's one of the reasons why our software isn't readily available for any consumer to go and use, even though we can easily make that happen. At the moment, we do a couple of steps. One, we work really closely with our clients, our customers, make them sign agreements and consent of the voice actor, make sure that the data is theirs and doesn't belong to somebody else. And the way we actually figure out if your voice is fake is because we're working with state of the art, we're in a very good position to actually figure out what's real and what's fake. So we have a classification method of actually detecting that as well as others.
We're going to have a chance to test this out because I have received from your co-founder a file which I'm going to read into a recorder. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to send that file to you, and you're going to give me back some verbiage in my simulated voice, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And we might redo parts of the show with my simulated voice and then show my actual voice and see if the audience can tell the difference.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
Ron, could you maybe explain a little bit, because I don't know if everybody's up to speed on this deep fakes situation.
Deep fakes is just a fancy term for looking at images that were created by a computer, by a model called generative adversarial networks that looks indistinguishable from a real person. People have never existed. And so they're creating fake celebrities, even more fake than real celebrities. I
saw there's this very famous YouTube video now of Obama speaking, and now they explain how they took his mouth movement, if you will, and replicated it and put different words in entirely and completely changed the message. I think that's the most famous example now of deep fakes. There could be many more coming down the road. Is this a threat in your mind?
Absolutely. I know that for the 2020 campaign, both sides of the aisle are worried about this technology being used by not only by Americans but by folks from abroad who would like to intervene in our elections and create a whole new class of fake news.
Right. So hey, how available is your technology? You've got some protection. I mean, you've got it protected where it's not going to be manipulated, I assume. Mm-hmm. Can somebody replicate what you've done?
They potentially could. That's why we're also working on the other side of the story, where we're actually working on a defense mechanism, not only for our solution, but taking any fake audio data and telling whether it's fake or not. So, yeah.
So I have, I do licensed music that I use in the show and so on like that, but there have been occasions when I got a little sloppy and I just copied some audio into a video I was testing. Right away, YouTube grabs, they know right away. They've got some digital signature to go, this is a protected copyright piece of music. And I go, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to do that. And I'll replace it. Do you think you can do something along those lines?
Absolutely. That's we know one of the more popular companies that started doing that was Shazam. And if you remember Shazam, you pull out your phone, you listen to music, it tells you what song's playing right now.
All right.
Google has something very similar. YouTube also has something very similar.
So because we have an investor here, what is your deployment? First of all, where are you in the product cycle and what's your deployment look like?
Right. So at the moment we're doing very specific pilots. So we want to know exactly who we're working with. These are generally medium to large size companies in the enterprise space. We're very careful about who the audio data belongs to. We make them sign a lot of legal documents. And we want to make this very easy to use, but we're very careful with our approach.
I assume some of the use cases are things like cartoons, creating cartoons or animations. And I was interested to learn that you started this really as a way of kind of doing Braille, using voice for folks who can't see well.
Yeah. So we initially started this and we got traction from a lot of the ed tech space. That includes, students who are dyslexic, students who are blind. So we actually work with the University of Hawaii at the moment. providing them our solution with just stock voices that we've created. So this is no one particular person.
How did you pivot?
We pivoted because I have a background in creating an artificial intelligent agent for travel. This was 5 years ago. This is before Facebook Messenger had an API. And from that, I realized there's a need for brands to really identify themselves in a voice-first world. And it just seems like the audio space and the voice space is so far behind everybody else that we can apply the same technology and get really good results.
What kind of customers are you engaging with?
At the moment, we're engaging with large entertainment companies, so media entertainment. Yeah.
Is it for movie voice replacement in movies? I think it's called ADR, automatic something replacement.
Yeah. So voice replacement in movies, in commercials. We're talking to gaming companies and seeing how they can make their content iterative. So
now you're a co-founder, and I had a conversation. He suggested you're also on have a development going to create a brand new, never heard from a voice that's never been used before, and to give it a brand, such as, let's just say, we didn't know about Clint Eastwood, but we thought that was you could create a Clint Eastwood-like voice and develop it into a future brand. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we realized in terms of this entire audio process, the problem begins at casting, right? So a lot of these mid-sized companies, they'll come to us and be like, okay, hold on, we still got to cast the right voice, right? So we realized, okay, if, like you mentioned, we can create celebrities that have never been seen before. This is the exact same idea, but with audio. What if you told me a profile and you said, make me a girl that's 17 from Dallas, can you give me what that would sound like? And we can generate 10, 15, 20 different voices who we can identify in that profile and let you select which one.
That suggests to me, Ron, that you could get the right image and they could create the right voice.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, when you're doing this, that girl from Dallas, to do that, you must have to have millions and millions of sound samples to be able to customize a voice for a given customer requirement. How big is your database?
So we're always actively collecting data. We have various sources to do so. Sometimes we just pay voice actors ourselves. And we just need a different subsamples of voices. So once we've trained with a significant data, adding different styles requires far less data, right? So
I've listened to the voices you've created. They are wonderful. Yeah. But I bet you've had some real bloopers too. You had some really disastrously funny voices you've created.
Yeah. Actually, we tried doing this demo early when we started. We were like, there's this figure that we would really like to demo this to, and he did a lot of these talks. Turns out he's like me, and he says a lot.
He says what?
And
oh yeah,
right?
And a lot.
Right. Yeah. So it turns out when we took his voice from various clips on YouTube, and we found subtitles with them, and again they had the words in them. So the model actually realized there's a significant chance after every sentence this person says, and it actually incorporated that into its output. So it's amazing how we can take, we get various nuances that are intended or unintended. For our case, it was almost unintentionally good for us to actually demonstrate that we can clone this person and get like some characteristics out of them.
Okay, so you've been in Silicon Valley, you're here for a few months, and you're looking for investors, it sounds like. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so are there no investors in Toronto? I think there's a couple venture funds up there. Do you have investors in Toronto? And what led you to decide to come here then?
Yeah, so we have a few investors that are actually interested in Toronto or in the Ontario region. What led me here is because I worked here for 5 years. So I kind of came down here. I wanted to know, what's the magic, right? There's a reason why companies start in the Valley. And they grow exponentially in the Valley, or if they even start in Canada, they end up in the Valley eventually for various purposes. So we're talking to a bunch of, my network is already built here. So I was like, let me tap into something that I've already built here and see what I can get.
How's the response been, if I can ask that?
It's been overwhelming, actually. I didn't expect things to move this fast, but it's been great so far.
Ron, is this a deal that you would look at?
It absolutely would, but it would depend on a couple of things. First of all, what are the use cases? Are the use cases big enough to create venture scale returns? How do you compete or compare to the competition? One of my concerns would be Google and Apple and Facebook are throwing hundreds of people at this problem, and Google has announced it's had some remarkable results recently. So I'd want to know how you're going to survive in a world where the giants are also investing in AI just like we are, but with more resources and more people. So I think, yes, I think this would be definitely an interesting deal to look at.
Because you're in Canada, often either the government or the local industry will give you some early business opportunities. Have you been able to tap into that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why we're in Canada is, it's very friendly to entrepreneurs. There's an abundance of talent. Like I was talking to him earlier before the show, we were talking about how the father of AI, and it's AI really began, and it's still like significant research is being done out of the University of Toronto and McGill and University of Montreal. So it's a great place to be.
I'm involved with a Toronto AI-based company called Cyclica that looks at toxicity of potential new drugs, and I can verify the talent pool there, and the venture community is exploding.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're looking for a lead investor here, then correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and then you'll take the term sheet and the terms back to. The pricing here might be a little bit different than you're going to get investors in Toronto. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, so that's definitely.
They can get overpriced. In other words, from a Canadian point of view.
Exactly, that is a concern, but I think the gap is closing, especially in an area like Toronto, where it's trying to compete with the Valley directly. So people are, the problem was people were very risk adverse in Toronto. I think that's changing really rapidly.
Very good. So I want to just touch on the futures, and I'll ask both of you really. What do you think? I mean, you've explained quite a bit of what you're doing. Is there a quantum, are we going to see the product soon somewhere, or will it never be announced that this has been part of the product from your company, Resemble.ai?
Sorry, you mean the product when it's actually out there?
Yeah. When it's out there.
Is this powered by, or is it a hidden?
Is this a powered by? Or
so it'll likely remain a hidden thing. So just like your audio crew uses Audacity, but Audacity isn't really mentioned in every program. So very much like us, we're going to be really hidden initially. Not to say we won't show what we're doing, because we really do have a viral factor to us, which goes in our favor.
Do you have a technical lead over these giants around here, or are you aware that you have a technical lead, or is it unknown?
So I think we're on par. So it's definitely something that the technical giants may not be looking at, which we're able to take something and productize it.
Great. Ron, any other last thoughts for our guest here about his future movements in terms of investors?
Full speed ahead. I do think you should be concerned about ensuring that this is patented technology, so you can protect it for as long as you can. But I would want to ask you, what kind of an outcome do you want? Do you want to stay independent for a long time, or are you planning on becoming an acquisition for one of the big guys?
So we actually changed our name to Resemble AI because we realized this could be a lot more than an audio play. And this has the potential of, initially disrupting the voice industry and the audio industry. But at the end, if you look 10 years down the line, you might see movies that were completely artificially made. Like we already see movies that are half artificially made. So what's stopping it from being completely artificially made? So for us right now, it's like there's no limits to what we can achieve with
other application areas beyond entertainment. For example, healthcare is all over voice right now for making its devices more human, and also for doing detection of diseases based on vocal cues. So are these areas that interest you?
So we're interested in something like that. So one of the things that are interesting for us is ALS. So people who are about to lose their voice, our technology has the ability to preserve their voice. So this is something that's, we're not looking to monetize from, but it's just a good feeling that you have with technology.
So that makes me really want you to succeed, because you're not only going to do well, but do good.
Yeah, exactly. That's
great. Well, thank you, Zoe. Is there a way for any interested parties to follow up with you or the company?
Sure. Our website is exactly our name, resemble.ai. And you can email me at zohaib@resemble.ai.
Any comments about following up with you if people are interested?
Just contact us at the Band of Angels, www.bandangels.com, and add my name to that, Weissman at Band Angels.
Okay, well, Ron and Zohaib, thank you very much. I really enjoyed having you here tonight. And I've learned a lot, from both of you for that matter. So I want to wish you both every success going forward.
Thanks, Jim.
This is Jim Conner. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Game Changers Silicon Valley. Each week we'll address an area of innovation that may emerge as a game changer of tomorrow. You can follow us and subscribe to the shows at gamechangers.tv. We look forward to your continued interest and participation in upcoming shows.